to our divinity and be able to do something about that. Good morning. Wow. Woo! Okay. Anyways, so we can do that, right? Fully in our power, fully connected. Or not. And the thing that's so fascinating to me as I begin to play with this thing, it can be such a subtle thing when we're not paying attention. And the thing that I hope to share with you guys this morning is to pay attention. Because the truth is, every single thing in our life, it's like some of the things that we show up in, it's like, yeah, I feel pretty good about this area of my life. But then all of a sudden when it comes to this area of my life, I'm kind of going, yeah, I'm not so sure. Right? How many people can relate to what I'm saying? Yeah, everybody, right? Because that's just the way this human experience, what we're doing down here, that's the way it works. So I wish I could sit here and tell you that every single thing I just show up and like, poof, but the truth is, there's some things, because just like you guys, guess what? I'm on the spiritual journey. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't always have all the answers. Wait a minute, Mike, you get up in front and talk to people and you actually say that? Yes, I do. Because I'm human. And if I wasn't human, I wouldn't be here. Right? So it's just like every single person in here, we share this common experience. It's called life. And we support each other. We love each other. We're doing everything we can to figure this thing out to the highest level of our ability. And while, yes, I think life has given me some certain insights which might be a little bit different, which can help, which is my blessing to be able to share that with you, we still are all one. We all come from the same place. We're all going to the same place. We all come down here with things we wanted to figure out, and we're doing that together. And isn't it fun to be able to do that together? Yes, it is. It's actually pretty beautiful. So when I looked at this idea of victim or victor, to my mind there was just a couple of things that I wanted to share with you this morning about that. And that is, when you really look at victim consciousness, what is it about victim consciousness that comes to mind? First of all, when you're in victim consciousness, how do you know? How can you tell? Here's some thoughts. There's nothing I can do about this, so why bother? Right? It's just a complete defeatist attitude. We just sit there and we say, why bother? Nothing I can do. I'm all alone. I'm in this by myself. I'm all alone. Right? No one can help me. No one can help me. There's nothing I can do. I'm all alone. No one can help me. There's nothing God can or will do about this. Now, like Leah was saying in the meditation, I just want you guys, as a little bit of a trick, to look at those words, say them in your mind, and I want you to feel what that feels like, because this is the key that can help you notice when you're in victim mentality. So I'm just going to hush. How does that feel? How about yuck? Is that a good word to use? Yuck? Would that be fair to say? Yeah. Yeah. Icky? Heavy. Yeah, exactly. And that's what happens when we're in victim, is that we have no faith, we have no belief, we just feel like there's absolutely nothing that we can do, but why bother? And then there's the opposite side of that, victor. What does it feel like when we're victor? There are several things that I can do about this. Lots. When we're connected, when we're conscious, when we're aware, when we're present, oh yeah, there's a lot of things. There's not one situation, and I don't care what it is or how bleak it seems. I don't care. There's always something that you can do. Always. Always. I'm never alone. Ever. Why? I'm connected to my divinity. Hello? You're connected to your divinity. I always say this. It's like gravity. It's always on. You're never not connected unless You say you're not connected. But the truth is, it's always on. You're always connected to your divinity. More importantly, you're connected to God. That's not a bad thing to have in your back pocket, guys. Really, not a bad thing to have in your back pocket, right? Help can come from an infinite number of places when we're connected. Infinite. You can be driving here and all of a sudden hear a song on the radio. You can be talking to a friend. You can be in a bookstore and have a book fall off a shelf. You could have a dream that tells you what you need to be doing. It's limitless because you're truthfully limitless, and so is God, and the way that that information could be passed down is limitless. Limitless when we're open, when we're connected. And again, there's no limits to what God can or is willing to do. Of course, unless we say that there's limits on what he can and say he will do. Right? And so, when I was looking at this, it's kind of like an interesting thought to me. It's like over here is one way that I approach certain things, and then there's over here the way I approach other things. And it's just becoming aware of how I'm standing in the space energetically that makes the biggest difference to me. And the way that I feel it, the way that it comes through me, the way that I'm expressing, everything. It's almost like there's two different people. Have you guys ever noticed that one? It's like, why can I show up like this and be all this and all that over here, but yet in this area of my life, it's kind of like, whoa, not so sure. And there's a little bit of a difference. I show you this because this is something that was interesting. I want you to imagine this. When I grew up, I love you, Dad, but my dad had this exact thing on his table that sat next to his chair. When he would come home every night, he was hanging his keys on this. My dad hung his keys on this every single day of his life. Every single day. And I watched him do it. Watched him do it. And as I became more conscious and aware, and as I started playing with these principles, I just sat there and I was like, are you really, every single day of your life, you had this thing telling you, go ahead, everybody else does. And I mean, again, I love you, Dad, but that's the way my dad lived his life. Thinking that at any moment in time, guess what was going to happen? Right? And it's kind of like when you're walking around expecting it, guess what happens because of who and what we are? We're incredibly powerful. Talk about an affirmation to be telling yourself every single day of your life. Ow! That one kind of hurts, right? So I want to pivot a little bit because this month's theme is on prosperity. And I just figured in terms of one of the things that we might want to look at is, are we showing up as a victim or are we showing up as a victor in this thing that's called prosperity? So when it comes to prosperity, one of the things that Fillmore has always talked about was prosperity versus lack. And I just wanted to talk about that in terms of the consciousness that's going back to this idea of, am I standing here from a consciousness standpoint being prosperous? Am I showing up as a victor? Am I showing up in my power? Am I showing up connected? Or am I coming over here and I'm showing up as a victim and I'm believing in lack and. And isn't it funny? I mean, even when I stand up here and say that, I used to feel my energy going, it's like, wow, man, that is just really locks me up, right? So prosperity consciousness, when you think about that, if you're in prosperity consciousness, how can you tell? Your primary focus is on abundance. That's where you spend most of your time, focusing on abundance, looking around, seeing all the things and the blessings that you have in your life. I can tell you right now, in going through the experience I just had with my sister, if there was ever an opportunity for me to sit down and think that there's no abundance in a moment, it was in the moment when my sister passed. I was in the room, Leah was in the room when my sister passed. And some people might think, oh my God, how tragic. And do you know what life taught me? It was one of the most beautiful things that I could have ever witnessed in my life. It was powerful. What I saw happen was just absolutely magical in terms of what happened with the family, the people coming together, the support, everything else like that. And yet, if I wasn't careful, I could easily go into, look at what I just lost, instead of looking at what a tremendous gift I was just given. There's a huge difference in the way that I approached it because of the way that I think, because of focusing on prosperity. People that have a prosperity consciousness, they believe that they're worthy to receive. They get it. There's this thing inside of them that says, guess what? I'm connected to my divinity. Because of who and what I am, I can receive anything that's out there. Whether it's blessings, whether it's health, whether it's finances, whatever it is, I'm worthy to receive. Not because of what I have or haven't done, it's because of who I am. It's because of who you are. That's what makes all the difference in the world when you fully understand that. When you fully understand it, that's the thing that connects it. People that have a prosperity consciousness, they're grateful. They are grateful. They're grateful. Thank you, Rowan. They're grateful. Again, what are they looking at? They're looking at the things in their lives. Gratitude has its own energy. It has its own ability to create within you this force. And when you turn into gratitude, then all of a sudden, you know what the universe has a tendency to do? It agrees with you. And it says, oh, do you want more? Do you want more? It's like, yeah, I think I want some more. Cool. Well, then just keep up that energy. It's a whole idea of having a gratitude journal. It's a whole idea of having a gratitude practice that we've talked about here. It's pretty amazing. Here's another thing about people that are generally prosperous. Two parts of this sentence pay close attention. They know what they want, number one, which for some of us can be extremely difficult to figure out. And then they ask for it. So number one, they take the time to figure out, what do I want? And then they ask for it. Why? Because they know who and what they are. That's why. They know what they're capable of doing. They know that if they take the time to figure out what it is that they want with their divinity, that they have the right, they're worthy to receive. And then they ask for it. Right? Finally, they have a tendency to go after what they want. So in other words, it's not like this. It's not, hey, God, do you think you could plop this thing in my lap for me while I sit here and don't do anything? How many people have ever done that? Be honest. But then you've got the opposite of that, where it's you sit down, you make your best plan, you think about a way to go get what it is that you want, and then you start going after it. Understanding that you're part of this thing called universal flow, understanding that when you connect with your divinity, understanding when you start moving forward, that life has a tendency to let you know if what you're doing is working or if you might need to tweak your direction a little bit, right? Because sometimes we don't know. We don't know. But we try to move forward with what it is that's in our mind, in our heart, in our spirit, the thing that's driving you, that thing that's connected with that inside of you. We connect to it. And then we start taking action. We start moving forward, and then pay attention. Pay attention to what Spirit's telling you. Hey, this is working, but you might need to tweak this. Hey, you might need to do something a little bit different here. You know, again, I tell you guys this. 6 months ago, I wasn't thinking about being right here, and I'm here. Do you think I might not want to pay attention? Do you think that might not be a good idea? Do you think maybe life has something planned a little bit different for me than I did? Is that okay? I think it's okay. It's okay with me. It's okay with me, right? But I had to be engaged. I had to be moving forward. It's kind of like, I just want you to imagine the universe is just looking at us going, okay, what can we help you with? But when you don't pick, when you don't decide, when you don't start taking action and moving forward, it can't engage. It can't. It's like it's sitting there waiting, and there's like this entire thing that's sitting behind you, this force of life, of energy. The thing that creates all the heavens and earth is sitting there. It can't engage with you when you don't figure out what you want, and you don't make a decision, and you don't start taking action. It can't do it. It can't. It's not able to do it. When we think about lack consciousness, and again, just understand there's an energy here, right? The primary attention is on lack. I don't have enough. How many people ever have done that? I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough friends. I don't have enough family. I don't have enough yanta, 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 yanta. Right? And again, you're a powerful creator. So you sit there and you tell the universe, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, I don't have enough. You know the thing that's crazy, what I noticed? I love to use nature as a backdrop to figure out what kind of concepts that I've created that don't really exist out in nature. I just want you to imagine for a minute or think about this. Think about nature when it comes to lack. And when you look out there and you really look at nature, I'm not seeing lack. I'm not. Nature's not running around going, oh my God, we're lacking here. I don't see that happening in nature. I don't. Right? And so I've created, man, I believe, has a lot of different concepts that we've created that simply don't exist, but through our own misunderstandings of the way that we work and really the way that our divinity works, we've created these things that just don't exist in nature. And then we run around and we share those stories with each other, right? Sucks. Oh man, this employment market's horrible. Can you believe this? Can you believe the housing market? Can you believe this? Can you believe that? And we start and get this energy going, and all of a sudden the next thing you know, we've manufactured something that doesn't even exist in nature. It's crazy, but we do it, right? It's just crazy. Again, from a lack consciousness standpoint, we believe that we're not worthy. Because somehow, someplace, some way, some shape, we don't deserve it. We're not good enough. We haven't done enough. We haven't studied enough. We haven't, you fill in the blank, guys. I mean, it's really, really funny to me when we do some of our workshops how we'll have somebody fill out a sheet of paper that says, okay, you want this particular thing in your life, but in order for that to happen, list the five things that need to happen in order for you to have it. And normally it's more than 5 things that people make a list of, right? But it's just this idea that we think that, oh, I can't have this yet because of A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And I'm not saying that there aren't some of the things that are valid, but often what you'll find out is somebody doesn't think that they're worthy enough because of something that they supposedly did that's such a heinous act or a lack or something that they have no right to have whatever it is that they want because of something they've done in the past or haven't done in the past. It's incredible to me to sit there and just watch the people make those lists. As opposed to living in gratitude, people with lack consciousness live in fear. What are they afraid of? Oh, you name it, they're afraid of it. I'm going to run out of money. I don't have enough friends. I'm going to die alone. Yanta, 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 yanta. Right? They live in fear. There's this thing, there's this energy behind that keeps them locked in. And again, it's one of those things from a consciousness standpoint that if you really pay attention, you can feel it. And again, if you can feel it, then you can do something about it if you're conscious enough to pay attention to it. But when you're unconscious, you can't. Right? You can't. They rarely know what they want, and they rarely even ask for it. Because after all, if I'm not worthy of it, why would I take the time to figure out what it is that I want, and then why on God's green earth would I ask for it? Doesn't make any sense. I know for a long time, that's the way that I felt. For a lot of reasons, which I think some of you guys can relate to. I grew up in a place where I didn't feel like I was worthy of very much. And so the big thing that I had going on in my mind was like, well, why bother? I'm not worthy to receive anything. So, and it's just like this, it's kind of like this train of thought that just follows one step after the next step, after the next step, after the next step. And if you don't watch yourself, the next thing you know, then you're sitting there going like, why bother? So it's interesting. I don't know if you guys ever had this experience, but like even now it sometimes catches me, right? Walk into a restaurant, and I sit down, and then all of a sudden, what am I going to do? If I'm with a group of people, I'm going to wait for everybody in the restaurant to order first because I can't figure out what I want, and I got to sit there and wait for them to make a decision so then I can make a decision to figure out what I want. Anybody have that one go? It's food, for God's sakes. I mean, pick a meal. It's food. Can't you figure this out? It's like, come on. Yeah. And as a result of all of that, they rarely sit there and say, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to go after. They don't. So again, if you can feel the difference in the 2 points of consciousness, it's like one of them, again, you're standing in your power. You're being a victor. You know you're connected. You know there's limitless ways that you can figure this thing out. Nothing can stop you. Everything is possible. And then, whoop, you slide over here, and it's like the energy is just a huge shift in what you're doing and the way that you're approaching life and the different things that come up for us in our life. And it makes everything different. It changes everything, depending on what you're doing and what you've got going on, right? Here's the truth. I don't care what you've got going on in your life. And I know there's some people here that are going through some crazy stuff. I get it. I talk to you. I know. There's some crazy stuff that's going on. But here's what I want you to know. The truth is that you are one person, one place, one thing, one situation, one idea away from getting all of the help to help you with whatever you got going on in your life. That's the truth. When Fillmore was talking about consciousness, what he was talking about was this idea that a thought is the thing that you need more than anything to get you out of the situation that you're in right now if you're going through a tough situation. It's a thought. Why did he think that? Because he knew that when you were connected to your divinity, that all it took was one additional thought to move you out of the consciousness of where you were into a new frame of consciousness, which now changes everything because it opens you up. That's what Fillmore knew. I've had a couple recent things that's happened with. So one of the things that I'm really super passionate about is music. I love music. And I've always wanted to have something in this church that would allow us to come together as a family and do a portion of it worship, right? And ever since I've been trying to figure this thing out, the thing that's been coming to my mind is, well, I got to go get a band. And so I've talked to everybody in this room about getting a band, trying to figure that whole thing out. And because of a lot of different reasons, it just wasn't coming together. Now, I had 2 choices. I could sit there and come over here and, woe is me, can't figure this thing out, oh, bummer, blah, blah, blah. Or I could go, you know what, I don't see it right now, but I know what I want, and if I just keep focusing on what I want, eventually it's going to come together and I can figure it out. And so I'm playing with this thing, and the other day, and I can't even begin to tell you why this happened, right? I'm in the middle of doing something, and all of a sudden, I go, I need a break, and I just typed in the word worship music. Don't ask me why I did it, but I did it. And the next thing you know, this thing pops up where it's like, oh, here's an article that tells you about 5 different softwares that you can use that will allow even a little church that doesn't have a ton of money, but actually you can get songs that you can put together on a computer that you can do with your congregation and basically let me do every single thing that I've been wanting to do. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Stay tuned on that one, what that one looks like. But here's the difference. The difference is me sitting here going like, okay, well, bummer, whoa, can't do anything, this, that, or the other thing, and then all of a sudden, one thought, one idea changed everything. It changed everything. just from that one experience. You know, there's a story. How many people know who Hootie and the Blowfish are? You guys remember them? One of my favorite bands back in the day. So they're a little college band cruising around. And most of people know them because they put out a couple albums. It was huge. Darius Rucker's now moved on and is doing country music. But the point is this, is I remember a story where he was talking about them just playing college music. And they were just a college band. That's all they were. No big deal. Until one little thing changed all of that. His name is David Letterman. David Letterman got one of their CDs by fluke and listened to it. They came on his show, and Darius Rucker says their entire life was changed because of one moment where David Letterman heard him and said, oh my God, I got to have these guys on. And then their whole lives was changed, right? But what I'm telling you is that what has it, the temptation is, and this is what Fillmore warned about, is appearances, right? We have a tendency to think that this stuff that's going on right here and right now is the be-all, end-all, and nothing is going to change. Why? Because we've watched it time and time and time again, so we think, not correctly by the way, that history is going to repeat itself, right? Don't we all believe that history is going to repeat itself? Of course we do. Why? Well, because it has. It has. So as a result of it, what happens is, again, you guys are powerful. So what happens? The universe goes, really, Mike? History's going to repeat? Okay. And I really think, honestly, sometimes the angels or God or whatever you want to call it, I think they get bored with me. I think that they're like, dude, again? Come on, there's so many things that we could do differently here. There's so many opportunities. But we can't if you got this thing in your head that says history's going to repeat itself. And that's what happens. That's what we do. We get stuck with this thought or this idea that history is going to repeat itself, and then guess what? Everything has to line up with that because of who and what you are, because you are that powerful. And we don't believe it. We don't. We just think we're lowly old human beings down here having this ho-hum existence, and woe is me, can't show up. Can't change anything. Right? I'm laughing with you guys because I do it. Look, I'm not immune from this. And believe me, my story is a lot different than the way it looks right here. It's a lot different. But back in the day, that's the way it kind of went. Right? That's kind of what I felt with. I want to talk about, so here's a question for you. So what happens when we operate from a lack consciousness? Ultimately, big picture, and I'm going to open this up just for some responses. What happens when we operate from a lack consciousness? What are some of your thoughts? That's what you get? Life sucks? Oh, I love that. It relieves you of any responsibility, of course, because it's not my fault. Yeah, victim, yeah. Nicely tied in. Yeah. Nothing happens. Yeah. Yeah. What's that? You procrastinate. Yeah. Why? When you're in lack consciousness, why bother again? You procrastinate. Yep. You don't grow, for sure. Yeah. Some people would say, I'm stuck. Right? Anybody ever use that one? Yeah. Yeah. Drugs. Drugs, yeah, absolutely. You know, when I looked at it, I said a lot of the similar things, but really it came down to one thing. And to me, what it came down to is we're cut off from source. So in other words, when we operate in lack consciousness, the truth is we're cut off, and our ability to really do and have a limitless expression, just like what I've been talking about this morning, the ability to connect, the ability to have a lot of options, the ability to do endless things in terms of trying to help you with whatever you're trying to deal with, we get cut off from that, right? And it's like we sit there and we go, and I don't know about you guys, but when I'm in that space of lack, what to me it feels like life gets really, really, really small, right? And instead of having a limitless amount of opportunities and options to do something, what happens is I get a handful of options, And I don't like any of them. And whatever they feel like I'm really restricted. They feel like ugh, yuck. And there's a reason for that, and the reason for it is because there's a part of you that's saying, dude, there's a lot of other options. There's a lot. But you're focusing on this because we get very, I can only do this, I can only see this much stuff, and the universe is going, Mike, it's endless. You have endless opportunities. You have endless things that you can do about it. Endless. But yet when I'm in lack, then I get cut off from that. And then guess what? I go away from this idea of having like a support team, having the like epitome of support. I come over here, and now guess what? It's all up to me. It's all up to me. And I don't know about you guys, but when I'm in that situation, I'm usually not thinking too highly of myself. Getting real. I'm usually not thinking too highly of myself, so therefore I'm sitting there going like, yeah, because we've been able to figure this out so well before, right? And that's what happens. So we wind up getting cut off. So when it comes to prosperity, I want to remind you of what Fillmore said. Fillmore started with this basic proposition. Let's start from the basics. That there's plenty for you and me, and the substance is here all the time. All the time. Supplying us every needful thing according to our thoughts and words. So Fillmore walked around just with this amazing attitude and said, look it, there's no lack. Fillmore didn't believe in any lack ever. And as a result of it, he was able to create a lot of pretty cool stuff. In case you haven't been down to Unity Village, it's a pretty cool place. And everything else that they did in terms of the lives that touched, the people that were healed, and everything that was done in their time. Because Fillmore knew a couple of things, and this is really what I want to get to and leave you guys with in terms of this message of prosperity, tying it into victim, is that number one, Fillmore knew first and foremost that he was connected to God. Like he didn't question it. Like that thing is there, I'm part of it, I'm part of this whole thing. You could even say he knew that everybody was, and that we're all connected. Fillmore knew that. That's kind of why they called this thing Unity, by the way, in case you were wondering. That's why they called it Unity, right? He also knew that because he was connected to God, he knew that God was source. So in other words, what happens is if you're not careful when you start thinking about this stuff, you limit where your good can come from. And we start thinking, well, my good's coming from my paycheck, so I guess my good's coming from my employer. And Fillmore's like, you might want to rethink that one. You might want to rethink that one, right? So God, he knew that God was source. The other thing, and this is a really, really cool concept, right? He used the word substance. Substance. And substance is the thing that we get to create stuff out of. And he knew that substance was everywhere. There's no lack of substance flying around. And he also knew that all he needed to do was to get really, really clear on what he wanted, realize that God was a source, realize that substance was what he could play with, and then he started playing with substance, and as a result, he created some pretty amazing things in his life. That's how he did it, guys and girls. That's how he did it. He stood there powerfully, and he created time and time and time again. He also had a firm knowing. This wasn't, geez, I wonder if. This wasn't questioning. There's no lack. There's no lack. None. And he was crystal clear on that. Because again, if I've got God and God is my source, if I've got substance, and all I got to do is kind of play with that a little bit, and then I can, wait a minute, so I can kind of create and play with this stuff and manifest stuff. I can do that? Yeah, unless you think you can't. Unless you think you can't, right? By using his thoughts, his words, and imagination, he could create. Fillmore knew that. Fillmore knew ultimately that he was a creator. He was created in the image and likeness of God. God's a creator, so he knew he had a small part to play in that. And he also knew, as long as he aligned with those basic principles, that he could have some pretty amazing things show up in his life. And he could have a lot of fun. Wait a minute, life is supposed to be fun? Yeah. It can be, unless, of course, we say it can't be. And then it can be a real bummer. Right? Right. So, as I sit here before you and I think about this stuff called prosperity, and prosperity can take a lot of different forms in our lives, right? It's not just the financial piece. Yeah, the financial piece is nice, but there's so much more to it, right? There's so much more. There's prosperity in relationships. There's prosperity in health. There's prosperity in joy. There's prosperity in love. There's prosperity in forgiveness. There's prosperity in so many things, right? But it comes down to us. And are we able to open ourselves up to this possibility? And that's what I leave you with. Can you open yourself up to this possibility that what Fillmore said, what Jesus said, what Buddha said, what all the great masters and all the great teachers have told us, can you open yourself up to the possibility that they were right? What if they were right? Is it not worth the time to take to spend some time to figure that out? Wouldn't it make sense to spend some time there trying to figure that thing out? Because if they're right, it's limitless in terms of what you can do. And you know what? There's a lot of different ways to do that. We don't sit here, Unity doesn't sit here and pretend that we've got all of the answers. But it gives you the opportunity to play with your divinity, to go figure it out, to see what works for you, to see what doesn't work for you. We each have our own path. We each have our own way. And guess what? They're all a little different. We can share some common experiences. We can, right? Isn't that why we come together in this church? To share a common experience, to share with each other, to do what it is that we want to do and create and come together in fellowship and then see what we can do together? Isn't that what we're doing? Yeah. And so, possibility. The possibility that they knew. And the only thing that I would add to that is that when I sit here and I look and I see you guys, I just see light. The amazing ability for this thing called the divine to create each and every one of you in your own individual expression and what you guys are able to do and what you guys are able to bring and the difference that we can take and make in this world is limitless. As long as we show up as a victor most of the time, and as long as we come from this prosperity consciousness most of the time, I think you'd be amazed at the impact and difference that you can make in this world. And the only thing that I would ask is that you come join us and let us see what we can do together. Blessings to you. Blessings.